The capsule in the junkyard. The night was dark and silent. Only the sound of wind passed through the empty streets. In the middle of the sky, a small bright object appeared. It was falling fast, leaving a long tail of fire behind it. Most people were asleep and didn't see it, but it crashed, far from the city, into an old junkyard hidden behind a forest. Jake, a 22-year-old young man, worked at that junkyard. He lived in a small room beside the main office. He had no family, no big dreams. He just fixed old machines, sorted metal, and kept the place clean. Life was simple for him, quiet. That night, Jake was awake, drinking tea and watching the stars from his rooftop. Suddenly, he saw a bright light shoot across the sky and fall somewhere behind the yard. Must be a meteor, he thought, but something didn't feel right. The next morning, Jake went to work as usual. The junkyard was full of broken cars, old washing machines, and large metal parts stacked in messy rows. While checking the area, he noticed a new hole in the ground behind some large car frames. This wasn't here yesterday. He walked closer and saw something shiny, half buried under the dirt and metal scraps. It was round, smooth, and not like anything he had seen before. A strange capsule about the size of a small car. The surface was silver with soft blue lights running along the sides. There were no wheels, no doors, just one strange glowing panel. Jake's heart beat faster. He touched the panel. Suddenly, a small circle on the capsule lit up. It started making a soft humming sound. Jake stepped back, unsure what he had just done. Then, knock, knock. His eyes widened. The sound was coming from inside. No way, he whispered. Someone's in there? He looked around. Nobody else was near. Slowly, he stepped closer again. Another knock, this time louder. Jake felt nervous. What if it was dangerous? What if it was a bomb? Or worse? But curiosity was stronger than fear. He found a metal rod and gently tapped on the side of the capsule. Hello? Can you hear me? He asked, not expecting a reply. To his surprise, the panel on the capsule suddenly opened. A small puff of steam came out, and the lid slowly lifted. Jake held his breath. Inside was a young girl, maybe his age. She had strange silver markings on her skin. Her hair was white and soft, glowing slightly under the sunlight. Her clothes looked like a tight silver suit, covered in small lights and strange symbols. She was unconscious, her body still. Jake quickly checked her pulse. She was alive but very weak. He looked around again. No one was watching. I need to hide her, he thought. People will freak out if they see this. Jake picked her up gently. She was light, almost like a child. He carried her to his small garage at the back of the junkyard and placed her on a clean bench. He covered the windows and locked the door. After a few minutes, the girl moved. Her eyes slowly opened. They were bright purple. Jake stepped back. Hey, you okay? She looked at him with confusion. Then she said something in a language Jake didn't understand. It sounded soft and musical, but completely alien. I don't know what you're saying, Jake replied. She pointed to herself and said, Zyra. Zyra? Is that your name? She nodded slowly. Jake smiled nervously. Okay, I'm Jake. Zyra looked around the garage. Her face showed fear, confusion, and pain. She tried to sit up but winced. Jake helped her sit. You're safe. I won't hurt you. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. In broken English, she whispered, Thrown away. Capsule. Not wanted. Jake looked at her in shock. They threw you away? Like garbage. Zyra nodded. Jake couldn't believe it. Who would do that? And why? He asked. Who are you? Where are you from? She pointed up towards the sky. You're from space. She nodded again. Jake sat down, trying to understand everything. An alien girl had fallen from the sky, thrown out like trash, and now she was sitting in his garage. Outside, the wind blew softly. Inside, Zyra looked around, then back at Jake. Her eyes were tired, but her face was calm now. She trusted him. Jake didn't know what was coming next, but one thing was sure, his life was never going to be the same again. Then, a soft buzz came from outside. A small flying drone hovered above the junkyard, scanning the area. Its red eye blinked. It had found a signal. But Jake and Zyra didn't know, and not yet. The capsule was silent now. In the corner of Jake's garage, under a dirty old blanket, Zyra slept. Her silver skin shimmered under the light bulb above her. Jake sat nearby, watching her carefully. He hadn't slept all night. How could he? An alien. A real one. In his garage. He kept replaying the moment in his mind. How she fell out of the capsule. How she whispered her name. And how she looked at him like he was her last hope. He had so many questions. But right now, all he could do was wait. Suddenly, Zyra gasped and sat up, eyes wide, breathing fast, like someone escaping a nightmare. Jake stood. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." Zyra looked around, confused, then touched her chest. "Still here," she said softly. Jake offered her a bottle of water. "Drink. You need it." She looked at the bottle like it was a weapon. Jake unscrewed the cap and took a small sip himself. Then he handed it to her again. Zyra copied him and took a sip. Her face relaxed a little. "Thank you," she said in broken English. Jake smiled. "So, you understand me?" She nodded slowly. "A little." Words hard. Jake sat across from her. "What are you? Where did you come from?" Zyra looked up at the ceiling, eyes far away. "Not Earth. Not near. Sky place. Broken now. Your planet." "Yes." Her voice became lower. "Gone." Jake didn't know what to say. He had never imagined meeting someone who lost their whole world. Zyra touched her wrist. There was a small device, black and silver, with glowing dots. One of the dots blinked red. She pressed it. Nothing happened. "Dead," she whispered. "No power." Jake asked, "What was that?" "Signal," she replied. "To call others. Now, no one here." Jake looked outside the window. "Listen, I don't know much about aliens or space, but I think someone saw your capsule. A drone was flying over the yard earlier. Not normal." Zyra's face went pale. "Collectors. Collectors." She stood up suddenly, weak but alert. "They find, they take. No mercy." Jake stepped back. "Who are they?" She looked at him with serious eyes. "Hunters. Killers. They throw me away, like trash." Jake tried to understand. "You mean, they put you in that capsule on purpose?" Zyra nodded. "Yes. Prison, flying prison. No one was supposed to find me." Jake felt cold. "Why would they do that?" Zyra looked down. Danger. Power inside. They fear it." Suddenly, a loud beep came from her wrist. A blinking symbol showed up, 3 red dots moving in a triangle. Zyra's eyes widened. "They close." Jake ran to the window. In the sky, 3 black drones were coming fast and quiet. He turned to Zyra. "We need to hide. Now." But Zyra was already moving. She grabbed a metal pipe and walked toward the door. Jake stopped her. "Wait. What are you doing?" She looked at him. "I not run. Not again." Jake grabbed his old radio and switched to emergency frequency. "Come on, work," he muttered. Outside, the drones hovered just above the junkyard. One of them scanned the area. A red beam passed over Jake's truck and paused near the garage. Inside, Zyra closed her eyes. Her body began to glow softly. "Zyra?" Jake whispered. She opened her eyes. "I remember now. A little." Jake stepped back. "Remember what?" She raised her hand. A small spark danced across her fingers. "The power. It's waking up." One of the drones fired a flash of light toward the garage wall, melting metal and creating a small hole. Jake ducked. "They're attacking." Zyra stepped forward. "Let them try." Her body shone brighter now. The silver lines on her arms lit up like fire. The drone fired again, but before the blast could hit, Zyra raised her hand. A sudden wave of energy pushed forward, smashing the drone into pieces midair. Jake stared in shock. "What was that?" Zyra fell to her knees. Not strong yet, but soon. The other 2 drones flew away quickly, disappearing into the sky. Jake helped her stand. That was insane. Zyra looked up at him. They go, but come back. With more. Jake nodded. Then we need a plan. Zyra held his hand. You help me. Why? Jake smiled a little. Because you don't belong in a trash pile. And I don't let people suffer alone. Zyra stared at him for a moment. Then said, You, strange human. Jake laughed. You're not wrong. Outside, the wind was rising again. But this time, it carried danger with it. The drone wreckage was still smoking. Jake stared at the black, broken pieces lying on the junkyard floor. Just 5 minutes ago, it was hunting them. Now, it looked like dead metal. But Jake wasn't smiling. Because drones don't come alone. Inside the garage, Zyra sat against the wall, breathing hard. Her skin had stopped glowing, and the lines on her arms faded. Jake brought her a towel and a bottle of water. You okay? She nodded weakly. Power takes much. Not full. Jake sat beside her. What are these collectors exactly? Bounty hunters? Soldiers? Zyra looked at him. Not humans. Machines. Programmed to hunt. People like me. Escaped ones. Jake raised an eyebrow. So you're a fugitive? She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but not criminal. Just too dangerous to control. Jake didn't know whether to be scared or impressed. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, but the screen was full of static. Then it went black. What the? Zyra pointed at the device on her wrist. They block signals. Always do that before attack. Jake stood. Then we're out of time. Outside, far above the sky, a shadow passed over the junkyard. Not a bird, not a plane, something bigger, something that didn't make noise. A black triangular ship hovered silently above the clouds, cloaked, watching. It was them, the collectors. Back inside, Jake rushed to a secret storage room. He pulled out an old toolbox, wires, batteries, and something that looked like a radio, but bigger and custom-built. Zyra watched him. What is this? Homemade scanner. My uncle built it before he died. It finds hidden signals. Frequencies even the military can't block. He connected wires quickly. Lights blinked. A faint signal appeared. Strange sounds, digital pulses, not human voices. Jake narrowed his eyes. That's them, isn't it? Zyra listened closely. Yes, that's collector language. Scanning protocol. Jake frowned. They're searching for you again. She stood. Then we leave. Jake shook his head. We can't just walk out. They'll spot us. Zyra took a deep breath. Then we go underground. Jake stared at her. What? Zyra walked to the back wall and touched the metal. There is something here. The metal moved slightly. Zyra pressed her palm against it, and suddenly a hidden panel popped open. Behind it was a tunnel. Jake blinked. I never knew this existed. Zyra looked at him. Capsule showed me. I see things. Space tech speaks to me. Jake chuckled nervously. Right? Alien sixth sense. Makes sense. They stepped into the tunnel, closing the hatch behind them. Darkness. Only Zyra's bracelet gave off a faint blue light. As they walked, Jake asked quietly, Where does this go? I don't know, she said, but it's safer than up there. Suddenly, they heard a loud crash from above. The collectors had landed. Back in the junkyard, tall metal creatures stepped out of the black triangular ship. They had glowing red eyes, long limbs, and sharp tools instead of hands. One of them bent down and touched the wrecked drone. It scanned the pieces, beeped, and turned its head toward the garage. Target confirmed. Deep underground, Jake and Zyra kept moving. The tunnel twisted and turned like a maze. Pipes leaked. Walls were wet, but it was quiet. Until they heard it, a metallic sound behind them. Clang, clang, clang. Jake turned. What was that? Zyra's eyes narrowed. One followed. How? Collectors adapt. They learn. They're not just machines. They're hunters. Jake's heart raced. He pulled a wrench from his backpack, the only weapon he had. Zyra placed her hand on the wall. We need a way out. Suddenly, A small door slid open at the side of the tunnel. Cold air rushed in. Jake helped Zyra through it, and they came out under an old bridge near the river. They were outside the junkyard now. Zyra collapsed to her knees. Jake looked back. If that thing comes through. Before he could finish, a black, spidery machine crawled out of the tunnel, its red eye glowing like fire. Jake grabbed a rock and threw it. It bounced off uselessly. Zyra stood weak but focused. I stop it. You run. Jake shouted. No. We both go. But Zyra had already raised her hand. The light from her bracelet turned white. The creature leaped toward her. Suddenly, boom. A burst of energy exploded from her body, throwing the creature back into the tunnel. Its limbs sparked, twisted, and finally stopped moving. Smoke filled the air. Zyra fell. The sky cracked open like glass. Lightning flashed, though there were no clouds. Wind rushed through the trees beside the river, bending branches like they were trying to run. Something had shifted. Zyra lay still on the cold ground. Smoke rose from her hands. The creature she destroyed was now just twisted metal, sparks flickering in the mud. Jake knelt beside her. Zyra! Hey, wake up! Her skin had turned pale silver. The lines on her arms were glowing dim now. Her chest moved slowly, but she didn't respond. Jake looked around. No drones. No ships. Just silence. He picked her up, heart pounding. Come on. You saved me. Let me return the favor. He carried her up the river path, through trees and broken fences, all the way to an old train yard. Abandoned, forgotten, and quiet. Inside a rusty train car, Jake laid her down on a pile of old blankets. He lit a lantern and sat beside her. Who are you really? He whispered. What's inside you? Zyra's fingers twitched. Her eyes opened slowly. Where? She said, her voice weak. Jake smiled. Safe. For now. She looked at her hands. I used too much. Jake nodded. Yeah, that blast back there? You threw a metal monster 10 feet into the wall. Zyra closed her eyes. That's not even full power. Jake blinked. Wait, what? Zyra sat up slowly. Something inside me, locked for years, now waking. Jake leaned forward. What is it? She looked straight into his eyes. Weapon. Jake sat back, shocked. You're telling me you're not just using a weapon. You are one. Zyra nodded. Built for war. Changed later. Mind made clean. But the core. Still there. She touched the glowing device on her wrist. This holds the lock. But it's breaking. Jake was quiet for a moment. So, when the capsule crashed, Zyra continued. It was supposed to erase me. The lock. The memory, everything. But it failed. Jake rubbed his face. Why would they do that to you? Zyra looked away. Because I chose peace. They chose control. I escaped. Suddenly, Jake's homemade scanner beeped from his backpack. He grabbed it. Someone's transmitting again. Not collector frequency. Something else. Stronger. Zyra's eyes lit up. Show me. Jake held it up. A strange symbol glowed on the screen. A circle with wings. Zyra gasped. That's the rebellion. Jake raised an eyebrow. You mean, people like you? She nodded. Few survived. We were hidden. But if signal is real, they're calling. Jake quickly pulled out a map. Can we reach them? Zyra scanned the map with her eyes. If we move fast, yes. But collectors won't stop. Jake smiled. Let them come. I've got tools, engines, old tech lying around. We'll fight. Zyra shook her head. You'll die. Jake stood and opened a box full of machine parts. Maybe. But I'd rather die building something that matters than just hiding. Zyra looked at him, puzzled. You strange. Jake grinned. You already said that. Suddenly, a sharp buzzing echoed in the distance. Drones. Jake looked at her. Time to go. Zyra stood, still weak, but stronger than before. Her voice calm. No. Time to rise. Jake and Zyra ran out of the train yard, disappearing into the night, toward the signal, toward the rebellion, toward something bigger than either of them could see. But above them, from the clouds, a new figure watched. Collector General. He wasn't machine. He was something else. The signal was real. For the first time since her capsule crashed to Earth, Zyra felt something inside her flicker, hope. But hope was dangerous. It made you believe you had time. And time was something the collectors were already taking away. Jake and Zyra stood on top of a small hill overlooking the city's edge. Below, lights flickered. Radio towers blinked red. Somewhere in that jungle of buildings, there was one man who could help them. Jake pulled out a crumpled photo from his pocket. This guy, named Sam, my brother's old friend, used to work in satellite defense. Total genius. Total weirdo. Zyra raised an eyebrow. Can he reach the stars? Jake looked at her. If anyone can talk to your people, he can. Behind them, a soft humming began in the air. Jake froze. Zyra turned slowly. They found us again. Far in the sky, like black birds circling, two drones swept across the clouds. But they didn't attack. Not yet. They were watching, tracking. They're letting us run, Jake whispered. Why? Zyra's face darkened. Because they're not hunting anymore. They're leading. Jake didn't understand. She explained, they want us to reach the city. It's a trap. Jake sighed. So what do we do? Zyra looked at the blinking red signal on her wrist. Walk into the trap. Break it from inside. Jake grinned. Now we're talking. 2 hours later, they reached the edge of the city and entered an old warehouse near the docks. Inside, the walls were covered with screens, wires, and satellite dishes pointing toward the sky. A man with wild hair and goggles popped out from behind a console. Jake, what in the glitching hell are you doing here? Nice to see you too, Sam, Jake replied. Sam looked at Zyra and blinked. Is that a cosplay? Or? Jake raised a hand. She's not from here. Long story. But we need your help. Sam stared. Okay, this just became my favorite day ever. Zyra walked to one of the consoles. Her fingers hovered over the keys. These speak to me. Sam looked amazed. That's alien tech recognition. Neural interface. She's syncing with the machine. Jake rolled his eyes. Just let her do her thing. Zyra closed her eyes. The machine screens changed, symbols, stars, rotating maps of deep space. Then a sound. A ping. The signal. Zyra gasped. It's real. A rebel ship. Alive. Nearby solar system. They're listening. Sam shouted. We can bounce the signal through the deep tower. But it's high security. If we try, it'll alert every satellite and… boom! The wall behind them exploded. Smoke. Fire. A shadow stepped through. Not a drone. A man. Tall, armored, his face part metal, part human. Eyes glowing red. Jake whispered. Who the hell is that? Zyra's face went pale. Collector General. The hybrid. Sam grabbed his bag. Well, I'm out. Jake grabbed him. You started this. You're in it now. The hybrid spoke. Voice low, sharp. Return the weapon. And the human walks away. Jake stepped in front of Zyra. She's not a weapon. She's a person. The hybrid tilted his head. Incorrect. She is a threat protocol. A living bomb. Zyra raised her glowing hand. I choose who I am. Not you. The hybrid's armor split open, revealing a charged energy blade. Zyra's skin lit up, brighter than ever before. Jake looked at Sam. Can you send the signal? Sam nodded, fingers flying across the keyboard. I need 60 seconds. Jake picked up a metal rod. Then stall him. What followed was chaos. Energy blasts cracked the walls. Zyra fought like lightning, faster than Jake had ever seen. But the hybrid was stronger. Every hit pushed her back. Every second hurt her more. Sam screamed, Signal sent. They heard it. Zyra, barely standing, looked at Jake. They'll come, but not fast. The hybrid charged one last time. Jake threw himself in the way. The blast hit. Everything went white. Silence. Then, a voice. From the sky. Zyra of the Lost Flame. We are coming. The world was burning behind her. Broken wires sparked on the floor. Smoke filled the air like a dark cloud of war. The warehouse roof had collapsed halfway. Screens shattered. Consoles were on fire. And Jake wasn't moving. Zyra knelt beside him, shaking. His face was covered in dust and blood, but he was breathing barely. "You didn't have to save me," she whispered. But he did. He always did. The Collector General, the hybrid, stood on the other side of the room, his armor cracked but still glowing with dark energy. He pointed his blade toward Zyra, unmoved by the destruction around him. "You delay the inevitable," he said. Zyra stood slowly, her body glowing from within. Her silver veins were lit like rivers of light. "I'm not delaying," she replied. "I'm evolving." Suddenly, a voice echoed in her mind. "Zyra, we received your signal. Help is coming, but your power must open the gate." It was the rebels. They had heard her. Zyra's eyes burned brighter. Her mind unlocked more memories. Flashes of training, of running, of being locked inside that capsule, helpless. They wanted her erased. Now she remembered everything. She wasn't just a weapon. She was a survivor of a failed rebellion, the last of a lost order. They called her Flameborn, a living energy core, created to end wars. And she was done running. Jake groaned. His hand moved slightly. That was enough. Zyra faced the hybrid. "You want the old me? The one you feared? She's back." The hybrid launched forward, faster than light. His blade aimed for her heart. Zyra caught it. With one hand, the energy cracked, sparks flying. The hybrid's eyes widened for the first time. "You've unlocked the core," he whispered. Zyra's voice was calm. "No, I've accepted it." She pushed forward, sending a shockwave through the entire warehouse. The walls exploded outward in a burst of white-blue light. Sam, hiding behind a fallen desk, screamed as sparks flew past his face. Note to self, never doubt glowing aliens again. Outside, the sky shifted. Clouds pulled apart, and something massive began to appear. A rebel ship, dark silver and glowing with ancient symbols, descending from orbit like a ghost from another galaxy. Zyra raised both hands. Her body floated above the ground. The hybrid tried to attack again, but this time she was faster. She vanished and reappeared behind him, landing a crushing blow to his core. "System failing," the hybrid said in a broken voice. "Mission collapse." Zyra stepped closer, eyes glowing white. "You called me a weapon." She touched his chest. "I call myself free." A final burst of light, then silence. The hybrid's armor cracked down the center and fell to the floor, empty. Zyra collapsed beside Jake. He blinked. "Did we win?" She smiled through tears. "We're not dead, are we? Then I guess we did." The rebel ship landed quietly in the clearing beyond the warehouse. A ramp lowered. Alien figures, tall, calm, dressed in robes and armor, stepped forward. Their leader bowed to Zyra. "You lit the flame again." Zyra looked at Jake. "No," she said. "We did." The stars were moving again. Not in the sky, but in Zyra's mind. For the first time since her memory returned, the silence inside her was gone. No more fear. No more commands. No more being hunted. Just light and freedom. She stood at the base of the rebel ship's ramp, looking back one last time. The warehouse was gone. The city behind it dark and broken. Earth wasn't ready for her. Maybe it never would be. But somewhere in this strange planet, someone was. Jake. He sat on the edge of the ship's loading ramp, leg bandaged, face bruised, still trying to figure out what exactly had just happened. Zyra walked up beside him. "You could stay here," she said quietly. "This is your world." Jake looked at her, then at the massive ship stretching into the sky. "Yeah, but I've seen what's out there now." He paused. "And I'm not the same guy who worked in a junkyard anymore." Zyra smiled. "You never were. You just didn't know it yet." Behind them, the rebel crew moved in silence. They weren't just warriors, they were survivors too. Some of them recognized Zyra. Others simply nodded with deep respect. She was no longer the discarded. She was the awakened. The rebel captain, tall and silent, approached her. You carry the last flame of our order. Will you come with us? Zyra looked at Jake, then back at the captain. Yes, but I won't walk alone. Jake stood, wincing a little. I don't have space armor or alien powers, just tools and bad ideas. Zyra took his hand. You're all I need. The captain nodded once. Then welcome aboard. As the ramp lifted, the ship hummed to life. Trees bent gently beneath its gravity. Lights across its hull pulsed with old energy, older than any Earth machine. Inside, the ship felt like a temple and a machine combined. Warm walls, soft lights, strange whispers in the air, memories from another age. Jake looked around. I feel like I just stepped into a science museum run by ghosts. Zyra laughed for the first time in days. A real laugh. You'll get used to it. He looked at her. So what now? She stared out through the ship's viewing window. We rebuild. We find the others. We make sure no one else gets thrown away like I did. He nodded slowly. And the collectors? Her face turned calm but strong. We end them. Not with fear. With truth. With fire they can't erase. As the ship rose higher, the earth below shrank into shadow. And somewhere far behind them, another capsule blinked to life. Unknown, untracked, and falling fast toward Earth.